Hello Linux fans, Rob here and welcome to Linux Quest. Today we've got a look at one of my top 5 distros with a fairly major update to Solus 3. Stay tuned. Well, Linux fans, we've hit a milestone at Linux Quest. Linux Quest, the channel, is now 1 year old. I was looking back and my first video post was on August 10th, so we're a little over a year old now. So, hey, what better way to celebrate than doing a distro review? I can't believe how quick the year passed, really and truly. And also, I would say it was a very good year for Linux, or, over the past year. Has been really good in the GNU Linux realm, if you will. The community's grown. I think we've seen more support and lots of news and activity, and that is all awesome. Now, as many of you know, I have not been distro hopping as much, nor have I been posting as much content to the channel. Work and life has really kicked into high gear there in a good way, but I'm just not able to spend as much time doing what I love, which is Linux related stuff here on the channel. But there's been a positive outcome from that, in that I'm using the distros longer, which gives me a much better feel, I think, for reliability and continued speed and looking for any issues. Now, with that said, I've been running Revenge OS on this system. This is the family, the main system, so everyone's been using it, and it's been flawless. Now, I had the XFCE desktop in place. It's been fast and fluid. So if you haven't seen Revenge OS, give that a try. Excuse me. From the stability standpoint, it was just rock solid and continued to be fast. And now we've got a new distro in place here on the family system, and hopefully we'll run that through its paces. And I'm guessing it'll be for at least 2 weeks, maybe a little longer. Again, I just haven't had the time with the channel as I would like. Alright, so with that said, there's lots to look at here in Solus 3, which is Solus has always been in kind of my top 5 distros. I like it because it's an independent distro, and what that means for those of you not familiar with Linux is it's not based off of another distribution. It's not based off of Ubuntu, for example, or it's not based off of Fedora. So this is an independent build from lead developer Ike Daugherty, and he's got a few team members there working with him for sure to bring us an excellent operating system. Now, there's some things here that I'm not going to remember, so all of the details. So we're going to go through the website and just take a look. Some of these are minute, but some of these are big deals. I'm going to call this a substantial release here with Solus 3. So let's just first of all take a look here at some of the updated packages. You've got Firefox 55, which is the latest, fastest Firefox, LibreOffice 5.4, Thunderbird 5.2, fairly recent kernel here in the stable branch of 4.12. Now this is going to help you out if you've got an AMD Intel processor or NVIDIA cards. Just that kernel update is helpful there. There's also multimedia upgrades with FFmpeg to 3.3.3, new multimedia filters, accelerated MPEG-2 and VP8 encoding, support for snaps. This is one biggie. I haven't been following the progress of Solus in detail enough to know that this was going to be released this soon. I'm ashamed to say. But this is a big deal, and the reason it's a big deal is this just isn't, hey, we've got support for it, but you've got to go in and set things up. This features out-of-the-box support for the universal packages. And again, for those of you not really familiar with the lingo in Linux, snap packages, they have everything that they need in place that allows you to install third-party software. And the reason that snaps are such a big deal is once the developer puts everything together and they've got all their dependencies and everything in one package, this allows you to kind of universally install it from one system to another, and as well as update it. So this is a big deal especially for Solus, because one of the areas that I guess you would say people have always knocked Solus for is their repository. Now early on, I think that Ike made the decision that, hey, we want packages to be stable in our operating system. We want these things to improve the user experience, not take away from it or not cause issues with the operating system. And so because of that, you had a fairly limited repository early on as far as limited availability to the software that you could just one-click install from within the software manager. Now, it's improved, it's developed, and it's grown over time, but I think Snaps here will just absolutely take it to the next level and allow you to access that third-party software that's not in the Software Center. Other big changes here are within the Budgie desktop, and that's what I installed here was the Budgie desktop. So we'll take a look at things like the Raven menu. You see here changes to applets and other things there. Now you'll see the panel is here at the bottom. So we're going to talk about some of that. Animations have been included here under Unmaximize and Maximize. You'll see some animation effects. Alt-Tab, I know for some of you this one was always a problem. And when you step back and you look at it, yeah, it's not a huge thing. It doesn't alter the way you use the system, but from a cohesive standpoint, keeping everything looking very uniform, this is a nice improvement, which is now the Alt-Tab switcher will prefer the icon theme that's in place as opposed to the X11 icons, making things look completely different. So nice to see that. Applets, so there have been additions to the applets, Nightlight, which is good to see, and Places. Then there's some other changes here that I think, again, over time people will just appreciate, and it's been needed for some time within the Budgie desktop, and that's changes to the Budgie menu. So the searching has been improved, and basically I think some of the code from the Brisk menu, which is an extremely nice menu used in the Mate desktop, some of that's been brought over into the Budgie menu to allow for, I think, faster searching, and then you're not going to pull up duplicates and things like that. And then there's some other things that you can do to change the interaction with the Budgie menu. So we'll take a look at that. So again, kind of a major thing here. Vertical panels. And the vertical panel setup here is very slick because it can interact still very nicely, as you see here. If the panel is on the right, the Raven menu slides out from that. And so just very professional looking, and I think the way it's been implemented is extremely nice. So we'll take a look at that as well. Transparency. So on the looks department, you've got none, where it just stays opaque. Dynamic, that's where it's going to stay opaque until there is a maximized window, and then it's going to be transparent. And then you've got an option for always transparent. And if Budgie panels couldn't improve more, I love that, they've introduced a dock mode for panels, so we'll take a look at that if you like a dock as opposed to a full panel. Popovers, the settings menu, I love the way this has been implemented. It looks fantastic. We'll definitely go through that. Great job there. And I'm overexcited. I get it. I get excited about things like this when they're done right, and in this case, it's done right. We'll talk more about applets, improved applets. So on and on. Lots here. Position of the panel can be changed. Size of the panel. Auto hide settings. Shadow, stylized region, and dock mode. So we talked about that some. Other fixes and improvements, a clock applet will now only redraw when the label contents would change. So fixes like that. And then they get into the GNOME desktop. And I'm not going to cover that. I'm going to focus today on the Budgie desktop. Alright, so we'll close this out. And, alright, so where do we start? Let's start first with, let's go to the Raven panel. So I've always appreciated Raven. It looks professional, it's polished, it's different, and so it stands out. Now you'll see this in a few other distros now with their desktop environments to where they're starting to do things with panels, but this is something that has always kind of set Budgie apart. Now in previous versions, this is where you went to your settings area as well. Now one of the changes you're going to see is it's, I think, a cleaner interface. And I love having quick access to your input-output here for your audio, for example. So we have microphone here. I was able to quickly choose microphone for doing this video. And all I had to do was pop over into the Raven panel and select it. Notifications, so when you get various notifications, system updates, things like that, you're going to see that here. So that's the only two main panels that you have in place now on the Raven panel. Now what you'll find that's new here is settings. Settings used to be within the Raven panel. Now it's a separate area. And at first I thought, I kind of liked having it in the Raven panel. It was all there. And once you learn where things are within the Raven panel, it's all there. You could quickly go to it. But in hindsight, I don't know for new users that it was necessarily easy to navigate and find exactly what you were looking for. I think actually this new Budgie settings does a better job. So you've got main categories here on the left, which include appearance and panels. So this is where you're going to basically do everything that has to do with the Budgie desktop settings. So first up on the list you've got style, and that's where you could change things like your widgets. So you could go from Adapta down to Raleigh. So a decent list there. And then your icons. If you don't like the default Papyrus icons, you've got options there for Breeze, Adwaita, and then Papyrus Dark and Papyrus Light. You could change your cursors, and I love the fact that the Breeze cursor was in place. That's a great looking cursor for your mouse. And then you could just switch right over to Dark theme if you don't like this lighter theme. Then you've got built-in theme. So when enabled, the desktop component style will be overridden with the built-in one. So that's a way to allow you to control what's going on from different system areas or different application areas with the theme. And then we've got animation, so you can control whether window animations are on or off here. I'm going to actually just turn that off. Next up on the list under appearance we have desktop. So you can toggle on or off desktop icons. I love the way this is simply laid out. I love the way the theming. Here we can quickly see this is on. There's no light gray, dark gray. This is brightly colored. It pops, if you will. A little pun there. Most of you will know what I'm talking about when I say pop. That's some of the color work you'll see within pop. You've got home directory here, network servers, trash, and mounted volumes. Just quickly toggle that on. Control your fonts here for window titles, documents, the interface, monospace, all again here just quick and easy access. So moving on to panels, this is where things get interesting. So this is your button panel. So for your various applets you see down here in the lower right, this is where you can add to or remove or rearrange. So we're going to add a couple of applets just so that you can see what that looks like, and then we'll pop over here to settings to look at some of those controls. So the first applet we're going to add is the night light. So we'll add that applet, and you'll see that that's automatically been added to the center of the panel here. Now we could change that. We could scroll that up or down. So let's go ahead and scroll that up, and now it's moved over here. Now that's out of place. But maybe you say, well, I don't really want it in the center. I'm going to move it over there where everything else is. And so now it's over here to the far right. One other applet that's new that's made mention of is places. And I'm happy to see that as well. So we're going to add that applet. And again, it's going to put that, or it should have put that right in the center. Yep, we see that in the center. So now you have your places. And again, we could move that around. Now you've got some options with places. By simply highlighting places, we can choose to show the label. We can toggle it on or off. We can always expand. So let's see if, well, that didn't seem to work. We can show removable drives and network folders. So you're going to find that with various applets. Some will have settings and some will not. So here we see the default system applets. So far there are no settings there in place. So there we go. Now when we go over to the Budgie menu, our menu here on the left, And remember, again, there have been search improvements for sure, but now we get into some configuration here that allows us to change the way we interact with this menu. So there's a compact mode, and that compact mode removes the actual description of the categories. So you'll see here now we've got, categories. And if you'll notice, what I'm doing is I step through here, I'm having to actually physically click, and I make mention of that because one of the other options is rollover. So now with rollover on, we can simply scroll up and down, and automatically you'll see the corresponding applications pop in. So really nice improvement. So I'm going to keep that on. I've also got show headers. I'm going to keep compact mode off, and now we see headers under all. So if you were under the all category, you'll see this header here that says accessories, graphics, internet. The only suggestion I would have here for the headers is that you would change the color from a gray to the same teal blue that we see here, just to allow that header to stand out a little more. That might be a tweak that could happen a little later, just to kind of stand out. Alright, so for now I'm going to turn the headers off. Now you can also change the menu icon, and you could choose to show a label if you so desired. So here we see menu. So very nice overall, very, very nice. You could also create a new panel from here. And then we're going to go back over into settings, and this is where things get interesting for the actual panel. The panel here we see at the bottom. So we could change that from bottom to top, left, or right. Now with it here on the right, I'm going to slide this out of the way, and we're just going to take a look at how the Raven panel kind of pops right in over that. There we go. That's the way it's supposed to look. So you still have access to the panel, and Raven is still there. Actually, it's really not bad. Surprisingly, I expected it to be a little more convoluted, so I think they've done the best job you could do here with this particular setup. Alright, we're going to move that back down to the bottom. And then you could choose here automatically hide. We've got never, intelligent, or automatic. Intelligent, it's going to hide when you have an open window. So if we were to launch something, if we were to launch into music folder here, you'll see that that has hidden. And then we get into transparency. I'm going to take this back to never, and this is where we could go through and change to always. So you can see it's transparent there. Dynamic, so it'll change according to what you have open and what you don't have open. And then none. I also want to mention the stylized regions. So you could have those where they are themed differently. And then, last but not least, is dock mode. For those of you who prefer a dock, bam, there's your dock. So it compresses everything down and basically acts like a dock. And so if you go up here and you set up automatically hide to intelligent, it would be a dock that would get out of your way. One click. Another little hint here is you'll see how everything kind of looks grayed over or dim until you hover over it. I think that's a fantastic touch. It just allows the icon, as opposed to say popping up or getting larger or something like that. That's something you would see visually in docks often. It brightens up as you hover over it, and so you can easily see what you've selected. So I love it. And then last but not least, you've got session here where you could go in and set up apps to automatically start at boot. So again, I think excellent job on Budgie settings. Now you've got a live desktop environment which is turned on now, which would allow you to right click and give you some menu options, and one of those options is to change the background. Now on this system, this is opened extremely slow for me, and I don't know why. Now it's going to open. Let's see. There we go. So I'm not sure what's going on there. I launched this for the first time after I got everything set up, and at first I thought, well, maybe I didn't click it. It took so long to pop up. So I'm not sure if it's my system, what. I'm going to look into it, and if it's something that's on my system end, I'll report back. Or if you've got Solus 3 Budgie installed and it's opening lightning fast for you, please share that in the comments below. But here you could go and change your background, your lock screen. So we'll go in and just take a look at wallpapers. And some of these wallpapers I'm used to seeing within Budgie. So not a lot of changes there. A lot of these you'll see within the GNOME/GNOME desktop as well. There's a few additions here, it looks like. Some of the older Solus wallpapers. Or you could change your lock screen as well. Alright, so let's go over here and we'll just do a quick search. And you'll notice there as I started typing Firefox immediately popped up. Let's see here. Simple screen recorder, bam, right there. So it is fast and definitely improved over what we had before. And that was one of the areas that I always kind of picked on Solus for to myself, was the menu. It was kind of, I think, in a lot of ways outdated, sometimes slow. And you didn't have any configuration. You know, what you had in the menu was what you had. So I'm going to give this high marks for, you know, some major improvement in some, you know, configuration and definitely in speed. So all in all, there's so much to look at, and I'm already going on way too long for this. We'll quickly go through some of the software that's set up out of the box. I've only installed a couple of things: Simple Screen Recorder and Kdenlive. That's all I've installed. Everything else was installed out of the box. So under accessories, you're going to see some of your usuals: calculator and files. Under graphics, LibreOffice Draw. There's no GIMP or anything set up there. Firefox is your default browser, and for handling your mail, you've got Mozilla Thunderbird. And then under Office, of course, LibreOffice. And under Sound and Video, you had GNOME MVP and Rhythmbox. That was it. So fairly light on the amount of software that's set up, which I've always appreciated about systems, or about, you know, distros in general. For me, I just don't like to install something and look at, you know, 10 or 15 different pieces of software that, you know, I'm not going to use or have no idea what they're for in some cases, and just wind up having to go through the trouble of uninstalling them. So it's nice to see a somewhat limited install here. You know, you've got the basics to get up and running. Under System Settings, you're going to see background, Bluetooth, hardware drivers. Go in and configure your multiple displays. Online accounts, so you could set up your Google account or your Microsoft account and various other accounts. You've got a universal search here. Software Center, we need to take a look at that for sure. And so under the Software Center, not a lot of changes here, and really there didn't need to be many changes because they've always done a good job in setting this up in an easy to understand manner. So you've got Home, which takes you to your main categories, and then Updates. So if you wanted to quickly check for updates, you could do that from there. You could take a look at what's installed, and then we have Third Party, and this is the area where things have continued to grow some. Now I haven't gone back to look to see what's been added here, but it's a decent selection of third-party software. Everything from Android Studio, Impasse, a great piece of software there. Google Chrome, so if you want the original Chrome. InSync, which is a very good tool if you're using Google Apps. You can sync your files and folders and everything that way. Right into your file manager, by the way. Plex Media Server, nice to see that. And WPS Office. Viber and a few other. Spotify, that's a big one, and Slack, I know for many of you. And there's Skype. And then you could just simply do a quick search for the software you're looking for. So in this case, I'll go to Kden for Kdenlive. And there we go. And then under Settings, you could control things like automatically check for updates. And then if you're on a metered connection, you can toggle that on or off and check your frequency. And I'm just going to go to daily there. And then you can choose what type of updates you want to be notified about. So in this case, let's say you got your system humming along, things are running great, and you don't want to introduce new packages or updates to software that may break things. You're happy the way they are, but you do want security updates. So this is an area where you could just choose for those security updates and keep everything else as it is. Or you could go all the way here and get all the core updates and everything. I'm going to stay with all updates myself. And then allow fetching of remote media, including screenshots. So there we go. All right, well, I'm going to wrap it up. I've really gone long on this one. Excited to see this. I may actually do a follow-up video because I have a feeling this will be on here for a while. So I may do a follow-up video just kind of talking about stability and anything else that I might discover. So if you've got any questions in particular to the Budgie desktop or anything like that, post those questions in the comments section. Just remember, I'm not as active on the channel as I once was, so I will try to get back to you and answer your question in particular to Solus or Budgie. It just may not be right away. So all right, well, that's it for now, and as always, thanks for watching. Take care.